Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be continuing our Marvel series. This is going to be part 3 of the series. So we're going to be working on our hero page, creating a model for the API to get saved to our database, and that way we don't have to keep calling on the API. That way we don't have to keep calling on the API to get a response. We just have it in our database because calling the API gets pretty expensive. It's just a good habit to learn. We're also going to be working on creating a controller that's going to fetch this data for us and then sending it to the front end. So with all that said, let's get right back into it. Okay, so I believe in our last video what we worked on was the login component, so we're able to log in and out. So let's see if that still works. So test, sign in. Okay, that works perfectly, and then we can log out, and when we refresh the page we're still logged out. So that still works perfectly. Our MongoDB database is open. Our Marvel what's it called, our Marvel API setup is still open. So this is where we're going to be getting our API key and everything. This is what we're going to be fetching. So characters, character ID, things like that. So let's hop right back into it. So yeah, so we have this so far. Now what we want to do is we want to continue by building out our model. So in order to do that, actually, no, let's not do that first. So what we want to do first is create a Marvel controller. So let's go over here and create Marvel controller.js. Let's see. Okay, so what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be using this. Let's come here. So we're going to be setting with this example that's been given here. We're going to be using this gateway.marvel.whatever to get whatever we want to query, and we're going to need, as it says, server-side applications must pass 2 parameters in addition to the API key parameter. We're going to be needing a timestamp, and we're going to be needing a hash. So this is what it's going to look like: MD5 TS plus private key plus public key, and when we put it all together, it's going to do this. So hence we're just going to be hashing it, is what we're saying. So in order to do that, let's come into this Marvel controller and say const. We're going to be using crypto, and we're going to say is equal to require crypto. Cool. We're going to say const Axios is equal to require Axios. Const hero page is equal to require, let's see, let's leave this alone for now. Let's come down here and let's say const, where do we need timestamp TS, timestamp, and it's going to be a new date because we just need a timestamp, and get time. So we just need the time. There we go. Const, we're going to need, what did they say we need again? We're going to need the private and the public key. So for the private key, that's going to be your API key. So let's just say private key. Where is it? Private key is equal to process.env, because we're going to be keeping our private key in our env. We're going to be keeping it in our .env because it's a credential, so we don't want that out in the open. So let's get back to the spelling. So private key, we're going to say const public key is equal to process.env.public key. Cool. Let's say const hash, because we need to hash it here also, and it's going to be a combination of all this. So we're going to say const hash is equal to crypto dot create hash. So there should be there we go. And it's going to be an MD5 like it was stated in the in this MD5, and we're gonna say, let's make sure this is bright enough so you guys can see what I'm working on. MD5 dot update. So is that how they had it here? Okay, so dot update, and then we're gonna say TS plus private key plus public key dot digest. So all this other stuff is just the semantics of how the crypto works, crypto.hash works. So you don't need to memorize that or anything, just copy that as is. And there we go, you should be all set. So we have all this, and now what we want to do is we want to go in our .env and we want to set our private key. So I will do that and be right back with you guys. Okay, so our private key and our public key has been put in the .env. I think I just kept saying private key for some reason. You're gonna be getting both a private and a public key from the Marvel API when you get the when you set up an account. It's gonna give you both a private and a public key. So you just want to put both of those in a .env file, and you should be all set. So this is const hash. So now we can get into the nitty gritty of everything. So now we want to get superheroes, right? So we want to be able to get whatever superhero name or whatever we're trying to get from there. So let's start with a character. So let's say superhero names, right? Did I spell that right? Yeah, superhero names. So here we're going to be using an array, and that's because you can either choose to have multiple characters, and then you just loop through the array in order to get these characters, and then save them to your database. So that's why I'm doing this, so you can modify it if you wanted to. So I'm just going to show you the process, and then I'm going to show you the blueprint, and then you can modify it as much as possible. So we're going to say const superhero name Spider-Man, and then now we're going to say exports dot hero page is equal to async, because we're going to be using Axios, request response, and we're going to say try const all character data. So we're going to be calling this all character data, and then we're going to be saying is equal to an empty array. So what we're going to be doing is so this all character data is an empty array that we're going to be pushing whatever response we get from the API into. So we're going to be saving all that data into this character data. That's all we're doing. That's all this means. So now we can say for const name of superheroes. There we go, superhero names. We're gonna say const hero dot content. Actually, let's say you can't use a dot. So hero content is equal to await Axios dot get. Okay, dot get. So we're going to be getting our information from the API source. So for here, we want to get, let me just copy the link from my actual project, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so now that we have this, I'm just going to paste this here and do this and that. So actually, take this out. Okay, this should be the catch.
Music licensing.
There we go. So that's what we're missing. Okay, so what we just did is we got our link. So this is the link we need. So https gateway.marvel. Blah blah blah. 443. This is just an example, but we're using this example to compare. So we're gonna be let's actually go here. This makes more sense. So we're gonna be using characters, right? Comic title. So we're gonna be using the comics. So we just gotta come over here, go to comics, and we're gonna be using the title. So we're doing this. So this is what we're using. So if we were to get this data and say try it out, this would be the request URL. That's what we just did. So we got this request URL just to make things easier so you understand what we're actually doing. So we got this request URL, we plugged it in here, and then we want the title parameter. So we picked title equals name, which is the name here, because remember, if we have multiple here, we're going to be looping through multiple. So we just have name of superhero names. So this name is the only name there. So this should say like Spider-Man. And then timestamp is there. API key is right here. And then we're hashing it. So that's all we're doing here. And then now we can go back to this. Actually, we don't need to, but that's pretty much all we're doing here. We're just doing that. And now to collect the data, so we could just come down here and say const data is equal to hero content. There we go, because we just want the content dot data. So we can do this, and then we don't actually need this part. And then we can say console dot log data, right? So now, in order to see this, what we can do is, actually, what we also want to do is we can also say res.send data. Cool. And now we can come over to one more step. So now let's go over to our views, our routes, and we're just going to create another route, and we're going to call this routes.marvel route.js. And here we're going to do the same thing we did here. So let's just we're going to type it out, so we're not going to be lazy. Express is equal to require express, and we're going to say express const, we don't want to call it route. What do we want to call it? Yeah, we already called that routes, so let's call it marvel routes. Marvel route is equal to express.router. Cool. And now we can export .module. Is it module.export or export.module? Module.export. Module.exports is equal to marvel route. Okay, so we have that going for us. And all we have to do now is come down here and add this route, const marvel, let's just call it marvel routes, is equal to require
Music licensing reimagined.
views / marvel route. So we're creating a route now. Oops. And we're just gonna call this / marvel, and we're gonna change this to marvel route, and we're all set. So what we want to do now is come back down here, and let's say marvel route, actually, yeah, marvel route dot get, what did we call this one? We called it /register. Let's call this one / actually, let's see what we called it in our main one, so we just keep everything uniform. Views marvel route / comic hero. There we go. / comic / hero, and it's going to be our hero page, and that's going to auto import. Cool. So we have our route done. So now if we send this, we just have to come over here and say localhost 5000 / marvel / what did we call it again? Hero page. Was that what we called it? Route. Nope. Marvel route. Yep. Marvel / comic / hero. There we go. So we got the data. So if we look down here also, it should console log. There we go. Yep. So we console log the data right here, as you can see. So this is all the data that we just requested from. Now, you don't want to constantly call this data every single time. It's going to get expensive, and when you start actually working with APIs at like aside from personal projects, you don't want to make it a habit to keep calling APIs. So what you want to do is save this data to a database. But beforehand, let's just finish our logic here. So we don't need to console log this anymore. We already seen what that does. So let's take this away also. So let's come down here, and we want to say if the data that we get dot data. So the data that we get dot data is data dot data dot total. So the total data that we get, if it's not equal to 0, if it's not equal to 0, then we want to say all character data. We want to push all character data. We want to push all this data to all character data here. So remember, this is an empty array. We want to push all that data that we are getting right here into all character data. So we were going to push data. So as that's been done, now we can go into the model and go into here and then create something called the hero page model. So for this hero page model, it's gonna be akin to what we just did for the controller. It's going to be similar to it. So now for hero page, we're going to be connecting our MongoDB and saying require mongoose. Cool. And now we're going to be creating our schema and saying const hero comic is equal to new mongoose dot schema. And now we can just create our schema. So based on this, that's why I didn't close it out. So based on this is what we're going to be creating our schema on. So I'm going to show you a couple of lines, and then I'm just going to copy and paste from my actual project because it's long. So it's going to be code, and you can just also copy along in its number. So the code is the data type is number. So that's what we're doing here. So code data type is equal to number. So that's what we're saying. Status is a string. That's the kind of data type it is. Attribution text. We're going to we don't really need that. We're just going to say copy. I said copyright. So we're just going to jump right to copyright. So we skipped copyright. That's why I said we don't need this right now. So copyright. So copyright. And we're going to say it's also a string. And now we can use attribution text. So attribution text. This is a string type. String data type. Attribution. Actually, let's just do this. I don't feel like retyping all this again. Attribution HTML. Cool. It's a string. And e tag so much for that. E tag is also a string. So here's where it gets interesting. So now here's where this is the actual stuff that we need. So we can say data, and data is going to be an object, and it's going to say we're going to need what's it called? We're going to need, let's see, there it is. So data's right here. So just go up. So data, and then we're going to be needing offset, and it's going to be a string. We're going to be needing digital. We're going to be a limit. I don't know why I keep. And this is going to be a number. Also, offset is actually a number, not a string. So number, number limit is also a number. Got it. And total is also going to be a number. And now to enter results, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to say it's within data, so we don't have to close this. We're just going to say results is going to be an array of objects. Just so we need to copy the thing the exact same way. So I'm going to do the first 2 or 3 just to show you how it works, and I'm just going to copy and paste from my other one, which you can also pause it after I copy and paste it and just copy it the same way, because this does take a while. Digital ID, number, title is a string, and we get the idea. So now I'm just going to go over to my other one, and let's see what the model is, and hero page. So we got, I'm just going to copy it from results all the way down here. So let's take results out. Let's take this part up. There we go. So let's make sure everything is copacetic. Yep. Okay, so this is gonna be our schema for this. So I'm just gonna make this bigger so you guys can see what's going on. You can just pause it and copy it the same way. So it's gonna look like this, and I'm just gonna slowly scroll so that you can see what's going on. And there we go. And I'm gonna scroll back up slowly. And there you go. So we basically just got everything in here. That's all we were trying to do. So now we can now export this, and the way to do so is we're gonna say Mongo. Actually, how did I export this? Constant. Okay, constant hero. All right, so we're gonna say constant hero page is equal to mongoose.model, and we're gonna call it what do we call it? Hero page? Hero comic. And okay, so we're gonna call it hero comic. And the name of our thing is also hero comic. The name of our schema is also hero comic. There we go. So we have this set now. So if I go back to my controller, now I can say const hero comic,
Music licensing reimagined.
or hero page actually, is equal to require model / hero page. Okay, so now to complete this, we can now come down here and push all that data into our database. And to do so, we're going to say for const data of all character, what's it called? Character data. So for const for, wait, what? No. All character data. There we go. Const data of all character data. So remember, we pushed all our data into this all character data. Now we're going to loop through it because in case we have more than one superhero name in there. So we're going to loop through it. And then we're going to say const results is equal to data.data.results. And we're going to say const hero data is equal to new. So now we're using the MongoDB. Now we're implementing MongoDB. It's going to be hero page. Did I make this capital? Yeah, I should make this capital. Okay, so hero page. There we go. And it's going to say await hero data dot save. Hold up, we did something wrong. So we have const hero data is equal to new hero page. So within this object, what we want to do now is we're going to put in another kind of schema. So, well, the same schema we have, but in a condensed form, because we want to send particular things to our database. And rather than writing all that out, I'm just going to go over here and copy what I have. So, and then I'll show you what I did. Let's just do this. Okay. And paste this in here. Okay, so what I just did was within new hero page, I'm sending over the code that we have. So if we go over to hero page, I'm sending over the code, the status. So code, status, copyright, things that I'm going to be needing. That's what I'm sending over. So I'm sending over all this data, and then to complete it, what did we call it? Hero data. Yeah, hero data dot save. So now we have this. Whenever we call the API, we're going to be saving it into the what's it called? Into the database. So now we just have hero data dot save. So everything right now is complete on this end. So all we have to do now is just say, let's make sure this says await though. So because it's a sync. So we're going to await that. And then as we do that, we're going to say res.send all character data. And then we can do this and say catch. Let's make sure we have a try here. What is this end? Oh, okay. So we don't need this here. Let's just take this part out. There we go. So I forgot I had the catch down there. So catch, let's put error over here. And it's console.log error. Cool. So, yeah, so that's pretty much all we're going to be needing. So let's see if we refresh this, what happens. Okay, so hero page is not a constructor. Export hero.page. It's a type error. So let's see. Marvel controller 27. Okay, so hero page is not a constructor. Okay, so I think we exported this wrong then from this hero page. We didn't export it. So module exports is equal to hero page. So now let's see if it works. So okay, yeah, so we exported it right now. So we did it the correct way now. So let's try this again. Let's just close down the server really quickly.
Music licensing
Clear.
reimagined.
Clear. Oop. And also, by the way, I'm going to be using Vite for my upcoming projects. So we're going to be moving away from the npm run start method. So let's see, localhost, what was it? 5000 / Marvel / comic / hero. There it is. Okay, why is it being denied now? Let's see. Res.send all character data. Okay, let's check this. This is the most important one. We'll come back to that later. Hero comics. Nothing. Okay, at least we have it here. So it did set it up there. So let's see. What did we do wrong? I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's only because all this, let's try this. Because I get this problem sometimes. And we're going to say local host 5000 There we go. Yeah, it's just because all that stuff was open. So let's go back to our MongoDB. Okay, so we're back, and when we go back in there, it says, as you can see, Hero Comics now has this. So if you go to results, as you can see, we have all this results here, and this is what we wanted. So this is exactly what we're getting from here. So what do we want to do now? So we have all this information now, right? It's saved to our database. So what we want to do now is create this hero page in our front end. So that's what we're gonna go ahead and do at this moment. Okay, so before we do the before we go over to the front end and create that, what we want to do is create a link to where the database can actually be accessed from the front end. So what we want to do is say exports.database is equal to async request response. I'm going to use a try catch. Constant database equals to await hero page. And we want to find whatever it is we're looking for. So we want to res.send database return res.status of 200 when this is done. And for the error, we just want to console.log error. Cool. So with this, we can now go over to our routes. So let's go over to our routes, Marvel route, and we can say Marvel route.get /database. And here it's called, we can close out of that. It's called database. Cool. So we have, okay, there seems to be a problem somewhere.
Music licensing reimagined.
Let's see. Oh, that's why. So it needs to be the controller. There we go. Now it's over here. Cool. So we have this, and we're fine with that. That's all we wanted. So now we can go over to our hero component. Oh, and then we can just build from there. So in app.js, our hero component is hero page. So let's see, hero page. Okay, so what we want to do is go into pages. For hero page, we can just say
music licensing reimagined.
Hero I don't know why it's not importing. Let's see. Import hero. There we go. And now we can just. Cool. Okay. So now we have hero. So whenever we go to /hero page, we can see whatever we're working on. So let's do that. Localhost /hero page. So we gotta log in first. Test. We're in. So let's see if whatever we type in works. Hero. Okay, so now whatever we type in here should show up here. Okay, so let's see if this works though. Let's just type in hero.
Music licensing reimagined.
Anything? Let's see. Well, this would block wherever we are. So let's say class name. Text black first of all, so we can actually see something, and then padding. Yep, as you can see, we can see it, so it does work. We just take all this out. I just want to make sure. So that the only reason we had to do all that was just because the nav bars there. So that's the only reason. Okay, so now that we have this, we can just go in and start writing our code here. So to begin, what we're gonna say is, let's come up here,
Music licensing
and we're
reimagined.
gonna be saying const. We're gonna have a couple of use states. Set data is equal to use state, and this is gonna be a empty array, and this is where we're gonna be getting our data from the API. So const, we're also gonna be use something called is loading. Set is loading is equal to use state.
Artlist.io.
All right, and yeah, that's fine for right now. So what we're gonna say now is we're gonna be using use effect because we want it to load the minute we get on the screen.
Music licensing reimagined.
Our dependency is going to be an empty array. So we just leave that as this for right now. And then we want to say fetch data. Const fetch data is equal to async try catch.
Artlist.io.
For the try, we want to set loading. Actually, let's just say response. Const response is equal to await axios.get. And now we're going to be getting the, let's see, do we still have this configure backend? Yes. So let's go back to hero, and we're going to be importing that backend. There we go. What happened? Oh, we did not import Axios, I guess. Usually it does it automatically. Cool. I don't know why it didn't import automatically. But .get, and then we're going to be saying
licensing reimagined.
backend. There we go. So we're going to be saying backend slash marvel slash let's see, index.js marvel slash database. There we go. Okay, so marvel slash database. That is correct. So that's all we need from there. So now we can say console just to see what we have. Console.log response.data. Cool. And then we just want to finish this out by saying console.log error. Say error fetching data and
Licensing reimagined.
error. Cool. So we have all this, and this is just to get our data from the front end. So we're just going to plug this in, fetch data. So now that we have this, we can build out what we want to see in the front end. So the structure of our front end. But before that, we still have is loading here. So what we want to do is say, so is loading pertains to when the page is loading, or when whatever we're trying to get is still loading and it's not loaded yet, I guess you could say. So our information is still loading is what I'm trying to say. So we say is loading, we place loading in there.
Licensing reimagined.
Cool. And then now we can come into here to fetch data, and we can say set loading, and we can set that to true. So here, before we get our response and everything, we got to say the loading is true. So when we're done, we can now say at this point, finally,
Artlist.io.
set loading to false. So when we get all our data and it's showing, we don't need to see that it's still loading. We're just gonna set it to false. So all our data has been loaded. It's no longer loading as it was when we first before we called the API. And if any of this is confusing, you can just go ahead in my comments and just ask away whatever questions you want, and I should be able to respond to it. So here, return class name with is full, height is full, relative. There we go. We can say is loading. Okay, we can say div loading dot dot dot. So if nothing's showing up yet, you just want to show on the screen that it's loading, so the user knows that there's something going on the front end. It's not just a blank screen. So if there's a loading showing, then the user's like, okay, yeah, something's happening in the back end. It's just taking a while. Okay, and then we can say basically, so if it's loading, if the content is loading, show loading. If not, if the content is already loaded, then we want data.length, if it's greater than 0, to show, let's see, div class name. Just make this a bit bigger, and then let's do this. Cool. So now it looks a lot better. And close this out so you guys can see what's going on. With full height, we want to say height is 100. We want to give it a set height because we're going to be using images, and not all the images are the same size from the source. So on a medium screen, we want it to be 125 view height, but on every other screen, we want it on a medium screen and up, we want 125 view height. On a smaller screen, we want 100 view height. And then we want this to also be relative. Cool. So now let's just open this up. We can now say href let's use this instead, and we're going to say data. Wait, did we set the data here? No, we did not. So that is a mistake on my part. So actually, we actually didn't even see the data. So let's go back real quick. Let's sign in. Wait, why is this? Log out. Let's sign. Okay, so I did not finish this out. Okay, so what we can do is, sorry about that. I did not realize I skipped a step. So we can just do this instead. Cool. Test. We're in. Let's inspect the page, and we should see, there we go, our data. Here's our data here. There we go. And this is all our data. So let's save that data to our state, our data state. So what we can say is set data, and for data, we're going to use response.data, and we want the first item in the array. So first item in the array, if there is, then we're going to say data dot results. If not, we just want an empty array. Sorry. Web app. Okay. So now we can come back here. Let's just empty this out. And we can say, for the href, we can now say, actually, we can keep this for later. So let's take that off, and let's just go straight to the image. So the image source. So we can say image class name. We also want it to be width full. We want the whole height, which would be 100 view height, which would be this, whatever the parent div is. And then we want object cover. We want object top, absolute, top 0, left 0. Goes out of that. Well, we don't really. Let's just take this back, and then we can just do this instead. Yep, that's a lot better. Okay, so we have our image class name set up. So now we just want to do the source. Let's bring this down here one. Let's take this down. There we go. And for the source, we need an object, and this, there we go. And now within the object, we're gonna say data. There we go. Okay, now we're gonna say data, and question mark dot images. So if they're images, we want the first one, and dot path. Cool. And now we want to say dot, so we're appending it to another one, and this one's gonna say data question mark dot images first and dot extension. So let's see.
Music licensing reimagined.
And the reason I did it this way is because this is how we're told to do it in the within I closed out of it within the Marvel API documentation. So we need the path and then we need the extension. So why is it saying can't read what? Okay, can't read properties of 0 and 43. Okay, so let's debug this really quickly. So let's see. This should say question mark, because it's saying if data.length is greater than 0, then okay, what else? So okay, this here should say false instead. This is why it's good to look over your code. And then let's try it out. Let's see. So let's close this out. Okay, I think now we just get a syntax error. Let's see. Let's say this is null. There we go. So if blah blah blah, if data.length is greater than 0, then do this. If not, then it's null. Let's see if that does anything to help us. So test. Okay, so it doesn't really do much. So let's see. Okay, so at least we got that first part figured out. So now off screen, I'm just gonna figure this out and get back to you guys once I'm done. Okay, so a couple of things I ended up going to change. So for example, I split this in two, and I just said we have the constant response here, and then we have the results. So for response, I just had the same thing I had for set data, but I put it in results. And for set data, I just set it to results. So now we can take this part out, and then console.log. Now it just says console.log results. We don't really need the console log anymore, so we just don't keep calling it. And now at the bottom here, all I ended up doing was restructuring this image. So what we were forgetting to do was put data and then the first item. So we just kept saying data question mark. So it should be data and then an array with 0 in it, and then access everything else. So with that, we're just going to delete this. So now let's see if this works. So if I log in, test, and I sign in, voila. As you can see, we have the image we're looking for. So this is how you go about doing that portion of it. So we're not done with this. We're going to say alt is equal to data dot title. Okay, so let's see. Actually, let's take this part up. Okay, so this is what we have so far. But if you remember in my original, you were able to slide through different images. So let's just create the slider for that. Let's just take all this out. And in order to do so, we're going to have another use state, and we're going to say current item index and set current item index. I'm going to say use state, and we're going to set this one to 0.
Artlist.io.
So it's going to be starting from 0. And then what we can do is say, let's come down here before the fetch state, fetch data. We're going to say use effect again. We're going to say
Music licensing
const
reimagined.
timer is equal to set internal. So here we're going to be creating a timer for it, and we're going to say const next index is equal to current item index plus 1 with the remainder data
Artlist.io.
dot, what is going on right now, dot length. Okay, so let's see what we did wrong. Okay, so this should be a parentheses, not. Okay, that makes more sense. All right, cool. And then we're gonna come down here and say set current item index. We're gonna put it in next index. And now this is gonna be based on 5 seconds. So it's gonna switch every 5 seconds. And now we can say return
Music licensing reimagined.
clear interval timer. And we're gonna make this use effect based on dependent on current item index and the data. So what's going on? Set did I say internal or interval? What is that?
Artlist.io.
Line 22. There we go. Okay, so now we have that use state working for us. So all we have to do now is create
Music
the ability to
licensing
go to the next slide or the previous slide. So what we want to do is, so we have this fetch next image or next or a previous image, not slide. The whole thing is a slide. So now we're gonna say, let's come down to here, fetch data, right before we return, and we can say
Artlist.io.
const go to previous is equal to const previous index is equal to current
Music
item
licensing
index
reimagined.
minus 1 plus the data length. And if you guys want me to go in full detail on how to build this, on how I'm building this slide, you just let me know in the comment section. It's a little bit, you can always find some kind of package, or you can find some code that can just give it. You can just find, I think there's a slider package with npm or something like that you can just use, or you could use Bootstrap for their slider, or you can use Material UI. So this one is just fun building it out. That's why I'm not trying to explain too much of what I'm doing, because you can easily just use a template for it online that you can find. So that's not really that big of a deal. So this should be previous, should be in lowercase. There we go. And now, cool.
Music licensing
So we have
reimagined.
previous. Now we can go to next. So we want the next, and to do so, we do something similar, but we just say next index is equal to current item index. Rather than minus 1, we're going to say plus 1, and it's just going to be remainder data dot length.
Artlist.io.
Cool. And we're just going to say set current item index to go to next. Cool. So that's, no, it's going to be, that's not correct. It's going to be next index. It's always good to read your code back before you do anything. So that's going to be go to previous and then go to next. Okay, so since we have that done now, what we can do to expand on our front end code here is we can now plug in this current item index into our code. So what we're going to start with is we're going to come here before our image and we're going to do a href. I'm going to set up a href and we're just going to use this instead, data, and then we're going to use current item index, and it's going to be to the URL provided on the actual API given to us with the API. So this URL, so we're going to say URLs, and we want the first one, so we want this one. So we're going to say, if possible, we want that one, and then within it we want the actual URL .url, and we want to say on target, so we want to say our target should be blank. There we go. Rel should be no opener, non-refer. Cool.
Music licensing reimagined.
And then just close this tag. And now we want to embody every single thing within this tag. So let's just come all the way down to let's see, this is the div. Okay, so here. There we go. So now if we click on it, it takes us to the URL, but we're not done yet, so we're not going to open it up yet. So now that we have all this up, so also we still also have to add that current item index to all this data. So current item index.
Music licensing reimagined.
Current item index. Cool. So we have that. And then we can say, so we're here. Now what we want to do is add the buttons. Okay, so since we're doing current item index, I don't think we need this 0 here. Yep, there we go. We don't need that 0 because the current item index already has that within its code. Okay, so we're still not done. So we have this, but as you can see, it's just sliding on its own. So in the next 5 seconds, it's going to switch, and then it switches again, and another 5 seconds. So how do we control that? Because we set the interval to be 5 seconds, right? So the way we control it is we create a button for it. So I'm not going to go ahead and build out the whole button system because I used the SVG React icons typed in to build it out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go onto my my original project and grab the button configuration. So images, blah blah blah, and the div. So from here to here is the button. So I'm just gonna grab that, and then I'm just gonna plug that in here. I'm gonna make enough space so you guys can see what's going on. Let's see. It's cool. I think it's because I didn't encapsulate it with something else. Yeah. So at this point, I need to do this.
Music licensing
There we go.
reimagined.
Let's see. This div is where. Okay, let's do this first. Let's figure that part out first. So cool. Now save. Now we can come down here to like 78 and plug that in, and we should be good. Cool. So if you go to 78, so this is what you can copy this code right now. So we're gonna have a div, absolute top half, left 4, transform, negative y translate. I said negative translate 1/2, and the button is gonna be this. So I used the SVG URL, so you can just plug in the same URL and plug in all this, and it should show up the same way mine does. So this is for the button and the first button. So this is going to be for the previous button, and now for the, is that what I called it here? Go to previous. Yeah, go to previous. So this is going to be on click, go to previous, and now there's going to be another button. So you guys can go ahead and copy this one first, and then this one's going to start in like 105. So the other button is going to be go to next. So it's going to be from here to here. Cool. Yeah, it's just going to take a long time to build it out. So let's just conserve time and do this.
Music licensing
Cool. So this is going to be the button. So now if we go back here, you can see we have the buttons here. If you click it, it works perfectly. So these are going to be the buttons. And now we're still not done. What we need to do is we want to attach, well, we want to impose data, so such as like the creator, the name of the comic, blah blah blah. We want to put that, we want to impose it onto the comic image that's showing up. So that's what we're about to do now. So to begin, what we want to say is div. Let's just save that, div. And let's do this, make everything look nice and fancy. Cool. So I want to say is div. Let's bring this all the way up now. And we want to say the class name is going to be absolute, since we're going to be making it imposed on it at a permanent spot. We want to say 40% is the width. We want the button to be about 5%. Sorry, bottom, not button. Bottom. I can't say words. Left to be 0, and we want the padding to be about 5. We want so this is for medium and up, but for anything else, we want the width to be full. Let's see. We want a background gradient of 2. Let's do this over so we get some IntelliSense. Background gradient. I guess we're not getting that from black. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So if we look at it now, as you can see, we have this little background gradient thing going on. So we can take it away from this. If you see, we have this background gradient. And what we want to do now is say, let's see, absolute width fill, bottom, we want it to be 5%, left 0, padding 5. Okay, so now we want H1 class name, we want it to be text white, font to be bold. We want the text to be about 3 vmin. We want the padding to be 3, and here we want it to say data current item index dot title. So if we look at it, as you can see, that's the title of this comic: Spider-Man issue number 4, Spider-Man issue number 6. Those are the names of the comics. And then below that, we want extra details. So class P class name, we want text white, we want font to be bold, we want text to be 2.0 v min, we want the padding to be 3. And then down here, we're gonna say this is for the creators, and it's gonna be that. And then below it, we're gonna say data, same thing, current item index dot creators dot items dot map. So now we're gonna map through the name of the creators, and that is because if you inspect this, hopefully it didn't close out. All right, so if you inspect the results, let's say you come here and you say creators, as you can see, there are multiple items within creators, so you could map through it. And then when you map through it, you want creator and the index. And then just use an arrow and say
Music licensing
span.
reimagined.
You want the key to be index. And within this span, we're going to be using the creator name dot name, and we're going to be using the creator dot role.
Artlist.io.
Let's see. Yeah, we want the name and a role.
Music licensing
Did I spell it wrong? There's a question mark here. Okay, why is that not showing up? Let's see. Text wife on bold, creators, data, current creators, the items, dot map, create an index. Okay, so let's take this out and make this parentheses. There we go. Okay, I was like, why is this not working? So let's do that. And then, okay, so now we want to say index is greater than, if it's less than data and current item index dot creators dot items
Music licensing
dot length
reimagined.
-1, then this should be this. There we go. Then, yeah, this should be, so this should be then, not an open. So then we want, there we go. We want
Artlist.io.
exclamation, we want this. If not, then we just want this, and then we can close this. So let's see. So that doesn't really do what we want, so let's take this out. See if this works. There we go. So as you can see, when there's multiple, you get the comma. So that's what it's saying. So it's just grammatical. So if it's
Artlist.io.
if there are multiple then you just get the comma is what it's saying. If there's not, you just have the quotations, and you're pretty much set. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna copy from my original project and copy what the other things we just put in this background gradient. So let's go over here and let's grab all these p tags. So let's see what this div is. Yeah, we're fine. So let's grab all these p tags and just copy that and just paste it here. So what we're doing is we're pasting the price of the item, the issue number, the page count, and the attribution text. So for the attribution text, what we have to do for that one is we're gonna make another use state, and we're gonna call this attribution text and set attribution text, and we're gonna say this is use state. And for the attribution text, it's just gonna be a string. So for the attribution text, we're just gonna grab it from here and say cons set data, not data, set attribution text, and it's gonna be response dot data dot attribution text. Cool. So now if you scroll down, this is the attribution text. So we have the price, issue, page count, attribution text. So I'm just gonna show you this so that way you can just copy it. So this is what it's gonna look like. There you go. So rather than say null, we can just say let's put this over here, and we can just say div div no data available. There you go. So if there's nothing there, rather than it just being blank, it would just say no data available rather than having all this. So now with that said, our hero portion is done. So we're done with that portion. As you can see, this expanded to accommodate everything. And you can also play with this. You don't have to use the exact same properties I use, like price, issue, page count. You can do whatever you want with it. And also now, if you click on this, because we had added that href to it, because it's all, the whole thing is encapsulated by the href. When you add it to it, whenever you click on it, you get the information about the writer and the whole comic as a whole. So, and you can do that with by just clicking on this image, because the whole thing has the href around it, href tag around it. So now all we have left is to finish up getting data from for other things, such as like the characters, for the search and things like that. That's going to go at the bottom of this hero page, of this hero component. So we're not going to do that today because this video already took so long, but for sure we're going to finish this whole project on the next one. So this is going to be a 4-part series, so not a 3-part series. So the 4th one is going to have the whole thing. So with all that said, I'll see you guys on part 4 definitely. Take care of yourselves. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.